develop our own solutions to these complicated problems. And part of that is understanding wellness and veterans and differences between veterans and civilians, and how we have to reintegrate ourselves back into civilian life after hanging up the uniform, things of that nature. A little bit about me: I'm a 22-year retiree. I retired out of 19th Special Forces Group as a company operations warrant officer. Um, I've faced all kinds of challenges with my transition, with some of the use of the VA programs, some of my own mental wellness challenges, things of that nature. So I just want to take this first episode here to kind of uh, get acquainted with Twitch and say thank you to the followers who are hopping on board with them. Much appreciated. So after I transitioned out of the military, thought the educational track was going to be the way I was going to go. Started doing a doctorate in business administration. Um, Got a little frustrated with some of that. Some of the content is pretty repetitious, so I figured we would take a break from school and come back to that at a later date. While I was going to school, I was also working as chief of operations for a nonprofit. We'll talk about that experience later, but some of those opportunities with working at that nonprofit really um allowed me to figure out that like transition assistance was something that a lot of people needed some coaching and some hand holding and things of that nature on to successfully transition the thanks Charito for following. I'm new to the Twitch, so just getting used to it. As a part of that nonprofit, you end up helping people a lot of the times. And one of the things that I figured most people needed the help with was knowing how to access and use the systems that are currently in place and codified in federal law through U.S. Code Title 38, the VA program, and U.S. Code Title 10, the DoD programs that really help shape some of those transition activities. Some of the things we'll talk about, we'll go over the GI Bill, the different types of GI Bills, what certain types of educational content you can use those GI Bills with. Some other opportunities would be like Chapter 31 out of the Department of Veterans Affairs. It's a Veterans Readiness and Employment, VR&E. There's a couple different opportunities that provide additional resources outside of the GI Bill programs that veterans can use to get additional educational opportunities. Some of those get kind of tricky with words and understanding how those um, Title 38 entities manage some of those programs. And I've written an ebook on it, so I can speak to it at some length on how to help navigate some of those challenges. If there's anybody in the audience that ever has any of those, what do I do with my veterans benefits types questions, we hope to be able to satisfy some of those opportunities and questions to help and really use that as an opportunity to kind of coach some folks through different use of those programs instead of having to go out and find somebody to pay to do it. We can do it here for free as a part of the interactive content that we're providing on this channel. Some of the other programs that I've used, and I wrote another publication on it. It's Chapter 35 for the Survivors and Dependents Educational Assistance Program from the VA for surviving spouses and dependents of completely disabled veterans. There's additional funds codified in law that your dependents or surviving spouses are entitled to use those. So I can speak to that at length and help with some of those discussions as well. I'm a retired warrant, so I always got coffee on hand. Um, some of the key things that will kind of trip people up during their transition process. Figure we can cover some of that. There's plenty of content to chew on between the GI Bill, the VR&E, the dependent educational assistance, transitional assistance, and some of the challenges that I faced, as well as some others in the community. So we can kind of work to help each other along through some of those uh, opportunities to connect via Twitch and carry on conversations via chat and potentially host some additional content on the show, having others come in and talk about some of their opportunities that they're looking for. Being a veteran, to me, I always tell people that being a veteran is being a member of the largest fraternity in the world. You always have somebody else that you can reach out to and touch base with and really connect and get some help. So don't be afraid to rely on that network, that veterans network, and it starts with the people you know while you served and as you transition out. Um, thanks for the cheers, Kiz. So as you transition out of the active component or reserve component armies, you're going to go back to your local areas where you came from, and try and reintegrate into some of those old habits. And you can build a new veterans network there with some of the other opportunities like the VFW, the VA, or the VFW. Man, sorry. Um, in addition to the VFW, you can meet other veterans at your VA hospitals or local community centers. We host my American Legion post 0843 ish. We host community meetings, and I'm at and plugged into a veterans network. Hey, thanks, Just Ash or Just Chi, for following. And some of the additional opportunities to connect with veterans in those different clubs is important, and that becomes how you can work resiliency into your routine as you transition. Truth be told, it took me about 3 years to kind of get fully integrated with not putting on the pickle suit, every day of the week to go to work and figure out that now it's up to me to kind of like choose my own destiny. There's nobody dictating the terms of anything anymore. That's different from somebody who does a 3-year initial contract and gets out and separates after going on a rotation over in Afghanistan or Iraq. So the difference in that experience to me is the ability for the DoD to kind of like take care of service members while they're still in component. It's the challenges after you leave component where you don't have the support system and the mechanisms to rely on or lean on to kind of mind the gap in some of those challenges. So with that's one of the things that we've kind of set ourselves the task to help people navigate some of those systems, and that's where this content is coming from now. In addition to networking, um, like to me, building resiliency into your daily life is pivotal. It's part of your wellness. It's part of how you can hold yourself accountable for making good choices over bad. Ultimately, what it comes down to. Uh, when you have some exposure to some challenges with traumatic experiences during your deployed time, then there's definitely unhealthy mechanisms for unpacking some of those types of situations, but at the end of the day, that's not going to provide any value to your ability to successfully reintegrate into your community, end up applying additional obstacles that you'll have to figure out how to deal with later. So jump right in and let's talk mental wellness and start like dealing with some of those traumatic thoughts or invasive thoughts, and orient our efforts to dealing with those things on our terms and not when they show up, when they're unexpected or unwanted. Hey, thanks for following, guys. Appreciate you hopping in. Maris, RV, A and B, and Razel Wee. So part of that building in the resiliency teaches, it kind of, to me, the way I thought about it was it put the guardrails on my transition. I knew that I had previously had some challenges with some deployments, and that as I was coming up on retirement, luckily the Army found in its infinite wisdom that I needed to go do something else as a part of my transition to bring in my replacement. So that freed me up to go sit with some therapists and talk openly about some events that didn't really sit too well, or were recurring nightmares and things of that nature. And getting that got me started on a journey of like some additional prolonged exposure therapies to where I could really focus on the specific events to over of an extended period of time, working with great therapists down in San Antonio. And he really helped me understand that some of the finer points of where I was getting stuck would come out in some of those extended sharing sessions, and they did, and it kind of defragged my hard drive, if you will. So what it does is it kind of consolidated a lot of loosely connected data, as I went through and shared my experience over and over, it kind of filled in some of the gaps in the data, because I was able to tie things like feelings, smells, sounds with these events, and that helped me really kind of deconstruct how I was letting that stuff interact with me on a daily basis. It went from not being able to sit with my back against the door and things of that nature in different types of restaurants to, pretty much having as an engaging life as I chose, instead of letting like these other variables dictate how I was going to be forced to live my life. I wanted to kind of like deal with it and figure out that there's solutions out there, regardless of how bumpy it is. You just got to have to start taking the first step, and sometimes you'll take 20 steps to get down the road and realize that wasn't the direction you should have been headed, so you turn around and go back the other way. In addition to building resiliency, I'd love to definitely get the audience more involved. Thanks for the follow, CLM. Appreciate it. Get the audience more involved. Figure out what challenges you guys are having, what you're facing as a part of like your transition challenges, or have been transition challenges, or can't build the networks and things like that. And really figure out how to share your positive experiences with others too, because sometimes that was something that that always gave me a leg up, was knowing that it wasn't just me going to spend an hour talking with a therapist about an uncomfortable situation, because I saw somebody in in an outpatient clinic that I'd seen, 6 or 7 weeks in a row. You're like, okay, cool. Now they're going through some of the same stuff that I was. So that was reassuring to me as an individual that I could do it. Other people were doing it. It's been done thousands of times before me. There's no reason to take the shortcut version of not being able to unpack some of your problems that you're faced with, and resorting to self harm, or because that temporary solution doesn't do anything other than really just make a crappy life for everybody that you leave behind, because now they're having to unpack the trauma of you self-terminating, and they're trying to figure out why and all that, regardless of what you leave as a note or anything like that. It's selfish. So I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a veteran, and I'm just as relied upon for somebody else's wellness as I rely on other people for my wellness. So and one of those continue to serve type functions is knowing that you can share your experiences, and nobody's going to judge you for sharing. And that's part of the allure of this game, honestly, is creating a resilient community that's not worried about any stigmas on sharing any of your perceived traumas. Everybody deals with things in different ways, as a special forces dude. A little bit different experience with some of the things that we were exposed to than somebody that deployed in support of a water filtration company in the Navy. Those experiences are significantly different, but those traumas can be the exact same. It's just, hey, thanks for the follow, Marbuckle and Noel. So some of those challenges don't necessarily equate parallel wise, but they affect the brain in the same way that they do from one person to the next. So that traumatic experience impacts him or her just like my traumatic experience impacts me or would somebody else as well. So it's nice to know that there are varying layers of that type of complexity within things, and it takes growing up a little bit to figure out that, like, your version of trauma is not really any different than somebody else's version of trauma, same as an assault survivor, a rape survivor. Those traumatic events all trigger your brain to do weird things when certain events activate. So part of that growth that you have to do is figure out how your body physiologically is different than somebody that doesn't have those types of experiences. Knowing that, like, when you're getting stressed out, you clench your fists, or you tighten your muscles, or you get a little bit of tachycardia, or you get flush, and your face gets red, and things of that nature. So there's all these little indicators that you can kind of start to build your own little mental checklist that some type of change is coming in your body, that you need to be aware of that change, and how it's going to change the way you perceive, fight or flight type, really basic survival functional characteristics within your body. So just realizing that's those triggers can tell you early warning of something that's coming, and being smart enough to realize that can help you mitigate some of those challenges as well. In addition to the triggers, just once you become aware of them, you start to become aware of what brings them about. And understanding what brings them about, you can start to become more aware of the variables that you interact with, to consciously know that sitting with my back to the door is going to elicit some of those physiological responses in my body, and I can have a little internal dialogue with myself about being, that it being okay because I'm at a Chili's, in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and I don't need to worry about a threat coming through the door or anything of that nature. So it really helps you just kind of evolve as someone who's um, living with just some additional considerations, and you're not. Uh, it's going to mean you're not necessarily not normal. I mean, none of us veterans are technically normal. We have a warped sense of humor and things of that nature. And, we do things a little bit out of turn, and we're blunt and we're brash um, but that's a good thing. We know that we can hold each other to a higher standard because we've seen each other meet a higher standard. So learning to live with some of those nuances from post-traumatic stress and things of that nature, some other opportunities to discuss on the channel. Hey, thanks for the follow, Bad and Magno. I don't know how people read these things. It's crazy. Um, in addition to all the post-traumatic stress, we'll kind of work through some general wellness stuff and take some pretty holistic approaches to like figuring out how to deal with things and solve some problems and just change the way we think about things. Honestly, like it sounds really simple, but if you think about things in a positive light, you're going to have more positive perspectives on everything you think about. So, kind of like using some. It seems kind of gimmicky, but it works. So I'm not going to knock it because I tried it and I'm an official convert. The power of positivity. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So changing the way we interact and we perceive um, our world around us and understand that everybody is kind of, in a sense, living their own realities um, because they have different variables that impact their perspective on life as well. So just talking about all kinds of weird stuff. I'm a deep thinker. I like to have complex conversations. I like to cut through the small talk and get to some of the more um, juicier content, I guess, and see what goes from there. So as we grow through this new show kicking off and how we interact with Twitch and all of everybody out there listening in the space, please reach out, engage. I'd love to interact with you and see if we can't figure out how to help each other. Let's become a vibrant, effective network that can support each other, and part of that is part of that is it, part of the extension to that is this show. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any veterans related content that you're wanting some help on. In addition to a uh, being a retiree and the chief executive at OR. I'm also doing some things locally. I relocated my entire family to start a little farming enterprise. So we're working that as a side hobby on the side. So if we have anybody out there that's interested in agribusiness and things of that nature, we can side hustle that on top of the veteran stuff. That's an interesting, neat opportunity to explore for me because I like building in self-sufficiencies in that way. We're trying our hand at growing our own food and raising our own animals, and eventually, hopefully, we can cut about $50 out of the grocery bill from the hundreds that we spend on animals and growing our own food. It's fun. I think in these challenging times that we live in economically, any opportunity to save a dollar here or there is equally important. And to teach my kids how to, be, uh, resilient and self-sufficient. They won't have to rely on anybody. They know they can go out and grow their own food, grow their own animals. Hey, thanks for the anonymous tip, much appreciated. Thanks for the follow as well, Calf Inc. 36, clever name. Uh, so teaching my kids how to be more resilient and self-sufficient, and know that no matter what happens, they can go out and put food in the ground, take care of it, raise animals, grow their own meat, teach them how to, collect eggs, how to uh, kill, harvest meat birds, and skinning deer and things of that nature. Uh, Eventually, I would like to try my hand at, some off-grid stuff, but we're not there yet. My kids, I still got second batch kids getting ready. One's a freshman, and the other one's getting ready to be in high school here pretty quick too. So, um, a neat little experience. This move to a smaller community. I moved from a major metropolitan, over 7 million people, into a small little enclave that's got about 1,800. So quite the shift, and that's where some of the perspective will come from like being able to expand your own veterans network, and really figure out how to um, find help when you need it. At the end of the day, we're all here to help, and we're all one tribe, like Sean likes to say. But we're here to do great things and make sure everybody can not let some of the challenges from serving in the military come back to bite you in the butt. That should be an enhancing opportunity, and not an albatross, or something hanging around your neck. That makes us better, in my opinion, because we have exposure, and exposure to some whole of government approaches to some complex problems, as well as the um, kind of lost my train of thought there. So yeah, it exposes us to the whole of government to solve problems, as well as like signing, a blank check saying, "Hey, I'm going to go do some weird stuff that you're going to ask me to do at some point potentially." Everybody that signs up kind of goes through that. Hey, thanks for the follow, G Organismy, Jay. Uh, well, that was a pretty uncomfortable 30 minutes. I'll get better. Stay tuned, and we would love to hear what your thoughts are on the show. So follow us on the other socials, and interact with us on Twitter, and YouTube, and all of our other channels. I don't have the thing available, even though I just brought it up. But anyways, if you want to go look at some of the content that I've written, I'll post the links for the books in the chat, and you can take a look at some of the content. There's one. And control. And there's the other. Like I said, just whatever questions you got. If you ain't got them now, think of them for later. Bring them back. I'll be back same time next week, 4:00. Hopefully, I'll have a better intro. We'll try and throw some spicy little nuggets in. Let me know your thoughts. Give me some feedback. Follow us on the other socials. Thanks, and keep on keeping on. Vet Connect is the name of the show.